there's a lot of good. There is some bad and there is some ugly.
Hi, I'm Katie Schofield and I'm a permanent makeup artist and trainer. I'm obsessed with all things lips, eyeliner and eyebrows. And as well as being a supplier, speaker and educator, I want to help you grow your business and reach permanent excellence. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi and welcome to Permanent Excellence. A little bit late this week, but do you know what? It's because I had a massive training course. That's one thing I was thinking about, that I am still a real artist, working on clients, still a real trainer, training students, and sometimes things happen and you have to push certain things aside, and the podcast is a little bit late this week, but I hope I'm going to make up for it in content. So this week I'm going to talk about lips, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and it is going to be relevant to clients and students and also artists alike, because there's a lot of good, there is some bad, and there is some ugly. So let's talk about lip blush, the good things. Well, I trained in lip blush about 2017, something like that, 2017 maybe. So I've been doing it quite a few years, and in the beginning I think I trained the same time as I did eyeliner, and eyeliner at that time for me was way more popular. I did loads of brows, quite a lot of eyeliner, and not a lot of lip blush, because to be honest, it wasn't out there. There weren't that many people talking about it, and there weren't that many people having it. So I did a bit of lip blush, and I'd say over the past couple of years, it's really gained popularity. I do way more lips than I do eyeliner, and I do nearly as many lips as I do brows. There's a lot of lips, a lot of lip content. So what's good about lip blush? So from an artist's point of view, it is really popular. It's out in the mainstream now, and there's a lot of people wanting that sort of permanent colour on their lips. So the good thing about that is there is a market for it, there's demand for it. Also, I think that possibly one of the reasons that people weren't so into it before is because of the old lip liner thing, that looked a little bit 90s Pamela Anderson. There were a lot of dodgy lip lines out there, really, really dark. And I think that look was probably what people thought about lip tattooing. When you talk to them, they were like, oh, I don't really want that lip line. But I do still get people saying, particularly older clients, how much for just a lip line? Which is something that I don't do. I don't offer that. I only offer full lip coverage. So definitely there's a demand for it. So why is it good for clients? Well, it puts that definition back into the borders that a lot of people lose, and they lose it as they get older. Also, with the popularity of lip fillers as well, a lot of people are having that natural colour in the lips stretched out through fillers, and it really does take your colour and lighten it. So you'll notice a lot of people with fillers have a lot paler lips, and they definitely have borders that are less defined. So for people who've had lip filler, it can really finish that look to put that colour back in there. And also, just as you age naturally, your lip pigmentation starts to diminish and you get paler lips. But there's a lot of my clients, I'll look at them and they'll say, oh, I hate my lips, they're really thin. And I'll look at them and I'll get a magnifier out and show them. Or take a photo and zoom in and say, if you look at the edge of your lips, actually your lips go a lot further than the colour does, and you've actually got a decent pout there. And putting that lip blush on there, it brings that shape back, gives you bigger lips. Does it give you bigger lips? Well, from my point of view, yeah, it does. Not on everyone. Why is that? So because we're running needles over the lips to implant the pigment, the skin is being microneedled. So we're just implanting pigments at the same time. So one of the benefits of microneedling is it actually stimulates the body's collagen and elastin, and collagen in your lips, naturally bigger lips. Now, I'm not going to sit there and say that it's going to be a substitute for filler. It isn't. Nothing's going to do what dermal fillers can do. But my lips definitely are bigger from having them tattooed. I've not had filler in my lips for, I don't know, it's 3 or 4 years. And yeah, it's good filler. I would say there's possibly still a little bit there, even 3 or 4 years later. But having my lips tattooed, lip blushed, the before and afters, my lips are plumper. And also I've got less lines, fewer lines I should say, around the edges of my lips. They smoothed out because my lips have grown. So those little smokers lines, I'm not a smoker, but those little smokers lines or pouters lines or whatever, they've been smoothed out since I had lip blush. So not so much from filler, which I haven't had for a long time. So definitely it's made my lips plumper. They held on to some of the swelling. So we can't guarantee that everyone's going to have that side effect, but it is one of the side effects of lip blush, is that it will give you naturally fuller lips. So you've got the demand there, you've got what it does, it gives you permanent colour, it gives you more definition at the borders, which actually can then make your lips look full. It's like an optical illusion as well of just putting that border in there and filling them in actually can give an optical illusion of bigger lips. And just waking up every day with colour on your lips. It doesn't kiss off, doesn't smudge off, and I generally I wasn't a big fan of lipstick, but I would wear it. Just generally don't bother now. I don't feel like I have to, or I'll put just some lip balm over the top of it, and I always feel like I've got nicely coloured lips. And I think that mine are quite natural, and I've had mine, I don't know, 2.5 years. So one of the other good things about lip blush is that it's really, really long lasting. Way more than eyebrows. Now, why is that? Well, one of the reasons is that your eyebrows are just getting the sun more. They're just out. That's the bit that hits the sun. It's nearer to it and it's facing it. So your eyebrows do tend to fade quicker. And also probably there's a difference in the tissue. It isn't actually classed as skin. It's a membrane. It's different. The lips are different. And so it doesn't fade as quick. So I don't do that many colour boosts on lips. You very rarely see them. I might see someone who wants to change the colour, maybe go a bit darker, maybe go a bit brighter. Maybe on lip neutralizations it doesn't last quite as long. But generally you get a lot of bang for your buck. You get your lips tattooed, and it's there for a long time. So that's a good thing. However, that does have its disadvantages as well, because obviously it needs to be well done. It needs to be well done because it's super long lasting. I also think that the majority of people like to use organics for lips because they're brighter. Inorganic pigments tend to be a bit duller, muted, more earthy tones, and so most clients that I've done inorganics maybe want something punchier. I'm not talking stupidly bright lips, I'm just talking a visible difference. People want a visible difference. So organics tend to last longer as well. There's other substances in pigments that last even longer, like which titanium, so we'll talk about that as well as we move on. But the good thing about it, a lot of people want it. It looks great, it's really long lasting, so you get really good value for money. And so lip blush is really hot right now, so it's a great treatment to get into. So if you were thinking about adding this to your skill set, I'd say it's a great time to do it. There's a lot of people want it. Also, if you're a brow artist or a liner artist, adding lip blush means it's another a treatment that you can sell to your existing clients. So you can make more sales from the clients that you already have. And I think it's pretty easy to sell. It's easy for me because I've got it. So people will say, tell me about this lip blush. And I go, well, I've had mine done. And they go, oh, they look really natural. I'm like, yeah, they do, thanks. And so that tends to encourage more people to have it done. Also, there's a lot of content out there talking about lips. So I'd say that if you're thinking of getting it, it's great. If you're thinking of getting into it, great. It's a great time to do it. So that's the good things about lip blush. Okay, let's go into the bad. So talking about pigments, you'd really need to know your stuff on lip pigments, and I'm learning more and more as my sort of journey into permanent makeup and training is advancing. There's a lot of people wanting to pick up a pigment and go, I want that one. It happens all the time. Clients come in and they want to pick from a selection, like picking a dress. I want that one in that colour. And actually, you as an artist really need to know your colour theory, because colour theory for brows is way different than colour theory for lips. If we're talking about lip neutralisation, which is where we take people with melanin-rich lips and we're trying to neutralise the effect of the melanin and make them one colour, that's that's a whole different ballgame. I mean, there's countless colour combinations that you're going to get coming through the door. That's such a big subject. I would say, in fact, I spoke to my friend Carla the other day, who's a world-class lip expert, who I'm going to see very soon. I'm so excited. She said that lip neutralisation is a bigger subject than lip blush itself, and I would agree. And I think that a lot of the time we're getting people training in lip blush who think that they can just cross over into lip neutralisation and don't have the science, the know-how and the pigment knowledge to do that. So when we're talking about pigments, I was talking about organic pigments there. Organics, inorganics, there's a bit of a difference. Generally, inorganics are tougher to get into the skin and generally don't last as long, and the more muted, earthy shades generally. But one of the things that you're going to get in lip pigments a lot is titanium dioxide. So titanium dioxide is used in cosmetics a lot. It's very reflective. It's like a chalky type substance, and it reflects. So it gives us amazing coverage. So you may get a bottle that's bright red and you think, oh, I'd never have anything that bright. Actually, if that's got no titanium in it, that red may heal a really nice sheer colour of a pinkish colour. Whereas if a bottle is lighter but full of titanium, you are going to get a more opaque look. So a lot of the time the brighter heals lighter and the nuder heals like the most sheer. No problem there. Titanium gives us coverage. It gives us coverage and it's lovely and opaque, so it reflects the light back. So you're going to see the colour. So what's the problem with that? Titanium, I mean, that's an inorganic colorant in itself, but it lasts in the skin a long time. And generally it has a tendency to be pushed far out of the skin because the body is rejecting it. These are all foreign objects, so it's rejecting it because it's a foreign object. And these pigments separate over time in the skin, and you'll usually see the titanium on the top. So it can look a little bit chalky after a while if you overdo the titanium. How do you know? How do you know? Well, every bottle should have a list of ingredients. So realistically, it's up to you to know what these colorants are. And if you don't know, you can Google them. In my VIPMU class the other day, we had everybody bring in pigments and we Googled the colorants in them. And we Googled what they were. We know from the number of it, because you can look at the number and decipher whether it's organic or inorganic, but that doesn't always show how the longevity of it, because titanium lasts in the skin a long time. So you can see if you overdo the titanium on them looking chalky, the lips can have a slight cottage cheesy look after a while as that pigment separates. And titanium is really, really hard to remove. It doesn't laser well and it can turn grey when you laser it. And the lips are really hard to remove out of anyway. So I would say with lip blush, you have to know your pigments inside out and you have to be really good at implantation so that you're not messing up and going over what we class as the vermilion border, which is the edges of your lips. It's not necessarily the edge of the colour, it's the edge of where it turns from being mucosa into skin. So skin has, let me get this the right way around, pores and hairs, not haws and pears, which I did say on my class the other day. You're looking for haws and pears. You're looking for pores and hairs, and then away from that, it should look different. Now, it's really easy to see in a younger person because they've got tighter lips. You can really see the difference in that lip tissue. But as the skin gets more mature and gets more lines in it, those lines can extend from skin into lip, and it can be really hard to see what is lip tissue and what is skin. So for older people, that can be, you've got more of a risk of running out into the vermilion border, and it'll heal a different colour. You'll get what looks like a sort of Vimto stain, or a Kool-Aid stain, as you'd say in America. But you all know what I mean about like drinking Vimto, and you get that little ring around your lips. It looks like that because it's going to heal a different colour, because it is a different kind of tissue. So you need to be really careful. I'd say that lips is way more advanced than brows. It's also very, very different skin to work on. It's much thinner. So getting that implantation right is hard. It's so hard in the beginning. And it's easier to implant near the edges because that skin is tighter. If you feel your lips in the middle, sort of bouncy, meaty, and if you feel it at the edge, it's stretched tighter. Because of that tight stretch, we all know in permanent makeup, you need to stretch the skin tightly to implant the pigment. That's because as you pass it over, we're wanting to create suction from the needle to pass the pigment into the skin. To do that, we need a really good stretch. And it's harder to stretch here, and people aren't always working at 90 degrees as the lip curves around. So in the beginning, you can tend to get this sort of ring that heals in. You know, it's harder. It's harder to implant in the lips, and it takes practice, and it takes you finding the right machine plus the right pigment and the right technique to marry it all together to create that magic. And that can be difficult. You hear it a lot with beginners that they don't get the colour to heal in. I struggled with lips for a while. See, I can tell you all these things because I've done them. So I struggled with lips for a while, and it was finding the right needle and machine combo with the right pigment combo that brought it all together. Suddenly my lips came back really great, and much less needed doing at the second session. So you need, you really need to know your pigments. So how do you know about the titanium dioxide? Well, on the pigments, your pigments will be listed the greatest ingredient first, and it's usually going to be the carrier, so aqua, which is water, and things like glycerine, and you might get a bit of witch hazel in there. But the colorants will always have a number, a CI number, and it will start CI. And you can start to recognize the greatest ingredient first. Now, still, this doesn't always help you, because you could get somebody like Carla's pigments, Embody and Skills pigments, a lot of them have low titanium dioxide. Also, they'll have more of a titanium additive that you can control it, so that you know how much of the titanium, because you do need it for coverage on some people, particularly with neutralization. But it's good to be able to know what's in it and have that control, so you know then you've got more of an idea how they're going to heal and how they're going to age. So knowing your CI numbers, or at least being able to Google them, because there's so many different colorants out there, and they might have different names like Red 7 or Sunset Yellow and things like that. But actually the CI number is not just about pigments, it's the CI number for that colorant across the board. So every pigment should be listed in the CI number, and it will be the greatest first. But you don't know if that's 85% titanium or 10%, and that 10% is the biggest number of that. You don't know. You don't know. It's just the greatest first. So knowing your pigments, it's a lot of them don't, if they don't contain titanium dioxide, a lot of the Skills pigments don't contain any, and you would add it with the white pigment, and that allows you to control it. But some of them 50%, 70%, 85% in some pigments, and so they might go in and have a great finish at the time, and they got a really nice opaque look, but they'll start looking white over the years. So knowing what you're using, and literally boiling it down to the colorants, and so that you know the titanium dioxide, it's going to give you a better idea of how they're going to age, because as I said, lips generally don't remove that well. It's hard to remove because it's a mucosa. It's hard to remove pigments on the skin. So when I'm saying it's a great thing to get into, you need that skill. I'd say you need to have already practiced. If I teach people lips from scratch, they don't get to do it in the class. They get to see me do it in the class, and then they have to go away and practice on latex until I'm happy with the depth and the implantation, for them to be able to then come back and take a client with my guidance. If you've already had experience working on brows, then you can work on a model in the class. But if you're coming at it from scratch, I don't let you take one straight away, because I don't think that 3, 4, 5 or whatever days in a class is enough to teach how light-handed you have to be with lips, and it can be very, very frustrating as well. And you need to know that people can map the lips properly, and they're not going to go over that vermilion border. That is really important. There was a trend for that back in the day. People wanted the lips extending, but generally it doesn't age that well. So general consensus is not to go over the vermilion border. That's what I teach as well. So that's what can be bad about it. But again, just knowing your pigments and knowing your technique, that can prevent that. People can have really great, long-lasting work that doesn't age crazy, especially if it's only got one colorant. A lot of the reds that I use, they're just one color. It's just one color. So there's going to be no separation in the skin, because it's just one thing. So it's going to fade really evenly. You're not going to get bits of white coming up or some dodgy blue or anything coming to the surface. So that's looking at your pigments and knowing them, and not just being swayed by what everybody else does, because there's a lot of high titanium out there. And again, it became from this wanting to be able to have that one size fits all. Look at the bottle, oh, that's pretty, that'll look nice on me. What's in it? What's in it? And mixing your own pigments, there's a lot to be said for that. There's a lot to be said for mixing your own colours. And so you know what's in it. You know exactly what you're putting into people. So I'm really all for pushing further education and knowing everything down to really crazy detail, so that you can be more aware. It just gives you confidence in your work. You don't want to be sitting there going, oh, I've used that on someone and that's going to be aging like shit down the line. Just makes you feel better about things. So I'm really up for knowing your pigments inside out, and also your technique. You need to be really, really light on the lips. Me personally, I prefer using a 1RL if I can, or a 3RL. Particularly, I'm really into 3RLs at the moment on lips. 3RL, but small ones. So those are my two favourite needles. I'm not saying you can't do them with magnums. Loads of people do with great success. People do them with shaders. I've never had great success with shaders on lips. Again, mustn't suit my hand and my machine combo. I do really well with liners on the lips. So let's go to the ugly. Right, so the first thing is, they don't half swell. My lips went, I'm not going to say viral, but 70,000 people saw my swollen lips. You know, they were massive. I'm blonde. I think that kind of Celtic skin tend to be swellers. Gingers tend to be swellers. Also, we tend to be more sensitive, tend to feel it more. So it doesn't half swell. Now, some people won't swell that much. And generally, I'd say the rule of thumb is people don't swell that much and it starts going down while you're still here. So as you're standing up and getting your money out, we're talking about aftercare and all that, they'll literally be going down in front of my face. Within that first hour, they're going down. Mine stayed swollen for a while. They were quite a lot. They were quite big. I might just insert a picture here of what my lips look like. They were great. They won't usually swell as much as mine did. It was a 1RL powerful machine, and it was done and dusted in quite quick. But the side effect of that was that I was really swollen. But I've held on to some of that. You know, mine is still nice and plump. So all the pictures you're going to see are going to be swollen, because you don't get that many healed results, because people don't come in and lie down for pictures 8 weeks later if they're all done and dusted. But they go down really quickly. Mine was still a little bit swollen the next day, but I didn't help myself. What I did, it was my best friend that did my lips, and to thank her, I was like, look, I'm going to bring all this facial stuff over and I'm going to give you a facial. And we actually went back to her house to do it, and I said, oh, lie on the floor, get all the cushions down, I'll give you a facial. And so I just spent the next 2 hours after having my lips flushed bent over with my head totally hanging down, with all the blood rushing to my lips. So like, I did the worst possible things, because obviously we don't always take our own advice, did we? So yeah, I had really swollen lips. Mine started to go down when I ate later that day, because you've got real big lymph nodes here. So a lot of the time you find the bottom lip is going to go down first, because you've got the lymph nodes there. Your lymphatic system is not pumped like your vascular system is. You've got your heart, your blood is under pressure from the heart, so it's pumping round. Your lymphatic system is not. It requires on two things, which is gravity and movement. So you need to be sort of upright and moving around, which is why when you sit on a plane, all the fluid goes down to your feet. So what you'll find is sitting your clients up, having them talking, moving. I have them making mouth movements like that. And it literally pumps it away, and it will go down in front of your eyes. It's so quick. So as soon as they're up, moving about, talking, eating, chewing, anything like that, that swelling is going to go down. So a lot of the time that swelling can put people off. But what I would say is that swelling is not painful at all. It's slightly unattractive in some people. It was in me. But it's not painful. Literally the second the machine moves away, even when you're wiping those lips, it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt at all. So they're not sore afterwards, I didn't find at all. Not at all painful. So that swelling goes down really quickly. If it was bothering you, you could also put some ice on it, but just not directly on it. And that will bring it right down. Other ugliness. We have to talk about the major red flag for lip blush is cold sores. And I'm still seeing artists now going, my client got loads of cold sores, what did I do wrong? And that really bothers me for the standard of training. It's imperative you know about cold sores. It's the biggest red flag for this treatment. If you have ever had a cold sore, you will get an outbreak after lip blush. Not a might, not a maybe, you will. Now, is it a might or a maybe? Probably. Do I say that? No. I hammer it home. If you've ever had a cold sore, you will get an outbreak. The biggest outbreak of your life. It will be all over because we are puncturing tiny little holes in the skin. It's an attack, and that can just wake up that dormant virus, and it gives it carte blanche to go all over your lips, and it will wreck the results. It can even scar the edges. So I am fastidious in point, if they sign to say they don't get cold sores, they've signed. And it has happened to me. It has. It's happened to me that people have said, no, I don't get cold sores. Have you ever had one? I don't get them. And then they've come, they sent me a picture absolutely covered. And I said, well, that looks like a cold sore outbreak. Yeah, I just hadn't had one for so long, I thought I'd be fine. Well, that's on you, literally. So you really must hammer it home, because it doesn't stop you having the treatment, it doesn't preclude the treatment. You can still have lip blush if you have had cold sores. You just have to get some antivirals, and you have to start taking them before or after. Us as artists, we're not medical practitioners, so we cannot tell you what to take. But what I generally would say is if you go and Google that, you'll get online pharmacies, and those online pharmacies will take you through a series of questions, because they are allowed to prescribe them online as long as they're not prescribing them to people with certain conditions. So I have had to preclude some people because they have had those certain conditions and they can't take the antivirals and they do get cold sores. Well, I'm sorry, you're going to get one, so it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. But you can go and get them, or you can get them from your doctor. Some doctors are not always that great at prescribing them for a cosmetic treatment, which I think is crazy. If your patient wants this, it's your job to look after them. But you can get them from a pharmacy, you can get them from an online pharmacy. The name of them in the UK is Acyclovir. But you've got to remember, as an artist, you cannot tell people to go and take them. You can just advise them of where they can find them, or go and speak to a pharmacist. We can't give medical advice. We take them before, you take them after, and it stops a cold sore outbreak, just like that. So if you're someone that gets them when you go on holiday, Acyclovir, you can get it. You can get it from an online pharmacy. So it's just such a simple solution that makes everything okay. So why people don't know about this and why trainers don't know about this is beyond me. Because it is the biggest red flag. So even though people say that they've never had one, I always make them sign for it, and because they will get one. So those are the kind of ugly things that we've talked about. Like the cold sores is one of the worst. But generally the healing of lip blush is really quick. So the reason that they swell is there's a big blood flow, big lymph flow, a lot of nerves, so they're very sensitive. So they swell up quickly, but that lymph flow and that blood flow means that area has got everything it needs to heal. It's got the blood bringing oxygen, cell renewal. So mine were done and dusted in 3 days. They'll be done in a week. They'll be healed in a week, but the colour can take a while to come through, to really bloom. So yeah, 3 days, and I've never been back for a second session. Jessie did them so well that's it, one session and done, one and done. Most people will need 2 sessions, but I was all right, one and done, and then never had to go back for it. So really, really great investment. So all in all, lip blush is an amazing treatment to get from an experienced and talented artist. And also, if you're thinking of going into it, get great training and learn your pigments. Also, don't be frightened by the uglies. They're really, really easy to control. Swelling and also cold sores can all be controlled. If you need more help on your lip blush, then join our Facebook group, Permanent Excellence. We'd love to help you in there. And as always, shout out to VIPMU.